All right. Welcome to Wednesday night. This is session 8 of the Great Start Group, the UNJURY Cares support group meetings. Hi, Dale.
Oh, thanks, Dale.
It's good to see everyone. We do this every Wednesday night, everybody. So I know there are some new people on tonight who have never been here. Welcome. And it doesn't matter. I said session 8, but we just do it in a rotation. So we'll start over with session number 1 next week. You can catch them all. We do a lot of sort of repeating little bits. We sort of summarize, and then some meetings are more focused on certain things, but you'll eventually get it all if you come to every meeting. In between these meetings, we do lifelong support group meetings. So next week will be a lifelong support group. The following week, we'll go back to session 1. You're welcome to attend all of them, but just know that the in-between meetings are a little bit more geared toward the long-term just continuing education, continuing to learn about yourself and all the things that it takes to manage your weight after you've been through weight loss surgery and have sort of come out the other end and met some goals and are feeling like a new person. So tonight we are doing a new session. We've never done exactly this before, so bear with us. I'm actually surprising Stephanie even. With a couple slides. So we're going to be talking about meal prep, but in a couple different ways. We're actually going to talk about prepping for those first 30 days after surgery, and then meal prep for the long term in kind of that new bariatric lifestyle and how you'll meal prep later on, or your options for meal prep later on. So it should be a fun night. We've got a couple of videos to show you about how to make some different things, what to do with your protein. But it's a casual night. We're here to have fun. We're here to talk to each other, learn from each other, and get to know each other. So for the hundreds of you out there around the country, know that there are lots of people who are probably in your very same position, who may have the same questions that you have, like, I'm nervous, I'm about to have surgery, I have no idea what I'm going to eat after I have surgery, or I have no idea what I should be, buying at the store right now. We're going to try to answer some of those questions for you tonight. And let's see, there were a couple questions in the chat when I first got on. People want to know how they'll get their attendance receipt. You'll get it automatically if you have logged in through your email. Like if you used a link that came to your email, you'll get an automatic reply in about 5 days from an email that is from UNJURY or UNJURY Cares. That email will have your attendance receipt in it, and it will also have a link to this meeting recording in case you want to watch it again or just kind of refresh your memory of what we talked about tonight. We have one main rule about, and we're not really rule keepers, but one main rule about just the way we operate on here. We sort of pride ourselves in having the most positive group anywhere on the internet when it comes to bariatric groups. So we love to keep it that way. So in the chat, do think before you type. Is it positive? Is it helping someone? Is it uplifting someone? Is it asking a good question? Or is it asking a question that is more of a judgy question? So like, are you sure you should be eating that? Or are you sure? My dietitian said don't do that. Or so all those things, if you want to say them, just put them in the Q&A or send them separately to supportgroup@unjury.com. We're happy to answer those questions. Because it is different. Some people's dietitian says absolutely don't do that. Other people's dietitian says a little bit's not going to hurt you. So, we want to make sure that everybody realizes that every single person is on their own journey, and we just want to support each other here. So that's the main stuff. Did I forget anything, Rachel or Stephanie, that I normally go through?
Did you mention, sorry, I had to pop off for just a second. Did you mention making sure in the chat to address to everyone instead of host and panelists?
I did not say that, but that's
mine. Yeah,
yeah,
that was the only thing I was gonna say. Yeah, that's like my always reminder.
Yes. So Wanda, right now, Wanda just typed a post that only Rachel, Stephanie, and I can see. So look in your little drop-down menu and click everyone if you want your chat to be seen by everyone. If you just want to say hi to the three of us, that's cool too. We're happy to see that. But I think most of the time people want to say hello to everybody. So change your chat now if you want to communicate with the whole group. But I'm going to get started. We've got only like 54 minutes to go, and we've got 20 slides to get through. So we're gonna get rolling, and everybody just jump in where you can. We've got the recording going.
I'm excited to see this.
Well, it's actually a lot of your work, Stephanie.
Oh, perfect. Well, then
Yes,
we're in good shape.
we're in good shape. Yeah. All right, here we go, everybody. So Stephanie, I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of go through the slides and then just like pass it over to you when it's
Yes,
that way
perfect.
the routine, or since I know what's coming up next.
Sure.
All right, everybody, like I said, session 8. This session, and you can see what all the other things are that we talk about through the course of the 8 sessions, but this one is number 8. We're talking about meal prep and some bariatric recipes, or just some things that you can prep for those first 30 days right after surgery, and then what to do, how to prep afterwards for the new lifestyle. So here we go, prepping for your first 30 days. Don't those look delicious? If
That
only we
really
had
does.
somebody like creating that setting for us in our backyard and sitting out those lovely shakes every day.
I know, that'd be really nice.
Yeah. All right, so we're just going to do just a quick introduction here to what is meal prepping and why should we do it? What do you tell your patients, Stephanie? Why should people meal prep?
So meal prepping is preparing some food or a food item ahead of time. And I tell patients the benefit of doing this is that it can save you time, it can save you money, of course, but most importantly, it can help you stay on track. It can help you meet your protein goals. It can help you meet your fiber goals. It can also, and this is important for people after surgery. So I really talk about after surgery. It can help prevent grazing, and that's something that wherever you're at in your pre or post-op journey, grazing is something that does come up, and that's something we should be aware of. Meal prepping can really help to curb that. And then last but not least, meal prepping can also help you with managing portion sizes. So there's a lot of wins to meal prepping. So I definitely am a big advocate for meal prepping.
Yeah. And just for everybody, the picture that's shown here, we have a chef who comes on every once in a while. His name is Chef Healthy
Mm,
Henry. He
I like that name.
actually, yeah, he used this to make some little egg muffins, I think, but they were like, they had, I think, kind of a Mexican twist to them. They had a bunch of different spices and then some black beans and some, I think in the back is a like a Oaxaca cheese or something. I don't know, but
Yum.
it looks really yummy. So he was meal prepping egg bites for the freezer, and I know a lot of people use those. So, okay. All right, so let's start with planning for the first 30 days, because that's everybody is probably either thinking about their pre-op diet or thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm going to come home from the hospital and then what in the world am I supposed to eat, right?
Yeah.
So I put in here, this is just kind of the review of those stages, and we did go through these, right, Stephanie, in what session, maybe 3, 4, something like that. I can't remember. We do go through them in
Yeah.
pretty good
Sorry.
detail.
I can't
Um,
remember either right now. Sorry about that. I can't
that's
even believe
okay.
it's session 8 already.
I
It's just
know.
gone by so fast.
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, this is sort of the progression that you're going to go through after you come home from the hospital. You'll do a day or two of clear liquids, then you'll move on to full liquids, then you'll move on to pureed foods, which is just basically the equivalent of putting stuff in a blender. It could even be like chicken, but it's got to go in a blender with some broth. Then some soft and mushy foods, and then finally moving on to solid foods. So we're going to talk about things that you can do to prepare ahead of time for some of these stages. And I do just want to give credit. The picture that you're seeing is a new recipe book that we put together. Everything on the inside of this, Rachel did a lot of heavy lifting to pull it all together. So it's a really nice recipe book if you're interested in just kind of some different ideas for things that you can eat with protein, which is what, of course, everybody needs after surgery. So all right, so prepping for the clear liquid diet. Stephanie, or actually the clear liquid or the full liquid diet. Remind us what's the difference between a clear liquid and a full liquid.
Yeah, so a clear liquid diet is basically like as the name sounds, anything that's clear. So that could be like herbal tea, water, it could be like crystal light, broth. It's not a whole lot of options, but that is the first phase of your post-op diet. It's a gentle introduction to liquids after you had this pretty big surgery. We don't look at them as big surgeries anymore because they're so commonly done, and we have these are very popular surgeries now, but it is still a big surgery. And so again, liquids are used as the first introduction of food back into your digestive tract. So we start with clear liquids, and then we advance you to full liquids. Full liquids are basically liquids that are dairy based. So think of technically a yogurt counts in this stage. Milk. Think of your protein shakes. So your full liquids, like I said, they're technically like dairy based or an alternative dairy based, just a little bit thicker consistency, or more consistency, I should say. And that
Yeah.
is going to be your second stage after your surgery.
Yes. Yeah. And so I put these pictures up here because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but many people, and those of you out there who have had surgery already, you come home from the hospital and you don't feel great. Maybe you might be a little bit sore, more tired than normal. That is not a time where you want to be thinking about, what can I eat? What do I have to make? What do I
Yeah.
have to right? It's a time where you just want stuff sitting there ready to go. So that's what these pictures are. These are things that can be made before you go to the hospital. So you can get your protein powders. You can make your protein popsicles, you can do your protein pudding, your protein jellos. You can make up some of these protein ice cream cups, which there are a couple different ways to do it. If you happen to have a ninja, what is it, Rachel? It's the Ninja,
Creamy.
the Ninja Creamy. That's right. It makes an amazing protein ice cream, but they're expensive. But if you have access to one, they're pretty awesome.
They're
Um,
they're
Pretty
fun to
nice.
experiment with.
It really, yes. And I don't even think we used the one that we have in the office. We haven't even really done probably everything we could with it.
Right.
But we've got some recipes. And then, of course, your broths. You don't really have to prep a broth, but you could have your broths set out in little cups already in the freezer. So all you have to do is warm them up. And then you can have your protein powders or your soup powders to add to the broth if you want to do it that way. But I recommend, and I think most dietitians recommend having some of these things ready to go
Yeah.
before you leave for the hospital, right, Stephanie?
I would. It just makes things a little bit faster. And then, like you mentioned earlier, Christy, it takes a thought out of, well, what do I do? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times people know like how to eat
Mm-hmm.
healthy, all of that. It's what do I eat is the big question. And that's
Mm-hmm.
when people can get frustrated. So I totally agree with what you said.
Yep. Good. All right. So this is prepping for the first probably what, week and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
These kind of foods, this, or maybe a week, 7 days,
So it depends on the program. So our program, we have patients on the full liquid for 2 weeks, but
2 weeks. Okay.
typically it's about a week. And then you transition to the pureed soft food stage.
Got it. All
Mhm.
right. Well, we're going to move on. So one question, as you can see there, that broth is the first picture that we showed. We actually make some soups that are very, very well tolerated and people really love them after surgery. But we do get this one question, which is, how do I make the soup so that it doesn't have lumps in it? And so I love to give this explanation of protein powders are protein just like any protein, right? Like if you take a chicken, a piece of raw chicken, and then you throw it on the grill, it goes from being sort of soft and pliable and bendy to something more firm and stable. If you take a raw egg and you put it in a frying pan and scramble it, you go from a raw egg to something that has more of a firm, kind of harder texture to it, right? Well, this protein powder, any protein powder that you use is the same. It's real protein. So if you have a liquid like a soup, or you mix your protein powder into water and you make a broth, and then you put it in the microwave and you heat it up, if it gets too hot, it's going to get clumpy because your protein changed. It got harder, just like an egg or just like a piece of chicken. So to make a protein soup that doesn't clump, you want to keep the temperature under 140 degrees. So I'm just going to show you what this looks like really quick. Oh.
So, and that's a nice water boiler because it gives you the temperature.
Yeah, you can use a little kitchen thermometer, or so see, it's just like a broth. It's like a Lipton noodle soup broth, is what you could expect to see. So it's really easy, but you just want to be particular about the temperature. And then afterwards, and do heat the water first. So don't put the powder in and then stick it in the microwave. Heat your water to the right temperature, then put your powder in and mix it up. Good. Rachel, any other suggestions for how to do that any better?
No, I was just gonna say, in a reminder, don't use like a frother or anything like that.
Yes, frothers work great when you're making shakes, but probably not a soup.
Not for soups.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, awesome. Okay, oops, we went back to that one. There we go. Okay, so my other tip here is, people have to do a lot of protein after surgery. And those first few weeks where you're really, like Stephanie said, doing liquids, they could get a little boring if you're just doing the basics. So don't be afraid to make your protein drinks interesting. So this is one Rachel and I were playing around with this past winter. It's an eggnog, but it's just made with vanilla protein powder and some nutmeg and vanilla and some other delicious things. So here's like a Christmas eggnog protein drink.
That is really cool. I didn't even know there was rum extract. So
There's
that's
there's every
everything.
extract you could possibly want. Yeah, you can get I mean, you can get hazelnut extract, you can get, I think you can get lavender extract. I mean, you can really do a lot of cool things with flavors. That eggnog too, you can do warm or cold. So you could make it, heat it up a little bit, or heat your milk first, like we said, before you put your protein powder in. So that's one way that you can make those first couple of weeks really interesting, is just by getting a recipe book or playing around with some recipes. And especially for those of you who really love cooking, and want to be creative with what you're doing, we encourage you to do things like this. All right, next, moving on to the purees and then the soft or mushy stage. So Stephanie, again, walk us through what is a puree and then what's the difference when you get to sort of soft and mushies.
So the puree is basically pudding-like consistency, so no chunks. It's basically, you could swallow these types of foods. The texture is a little thicker, and it's not quite a liquid. So again, a little thicker, but you could swallow them. You don't really need to chew.
Mhm.
And that is the next phase of the diet after you've had surgery. And again, gentle introduction to food as you are healing after surgery. And this is intended for your comfort, but also your safety as you heal after a bariatric surgery. Mushy foods, on the other hand, they have a little bit more texture to it, but they still fall under that same category. This mushy food would be like your scrambled eggs. So it's not liquid, it's not pudding-like, but it has a little bit more texture, but you could still swallow it without eating. You can mush it around in your mouth. Or you could gum it, but it's just a little bit more consistency than, say, like pudding.
Mhm.
Um,
Um, Perfect. And I did include for the mushy stage an overnight oat on this one. Is that going to be soft enough if the oat sits overnight for the mushy stage?
it So it should be. It should be. And also too, it's going to be a very small amount, so it
Yeah.
should be. Hmm.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did want to point out, so my pictures look really pretty here, but that beautiful jar of overnight oats is really not what you would be eating in one sitting. Um, but let's walk down, from the left side to the right, because for the purees, doing something like a protein smoothie or something that has been blended and, kind of put in like a jar or a bottle, you could make those ahead of time and put
Hmm.
those in the freezer and be ready to go. Like you could line up, you could get your blender ready, you could line up, the couple of things that you're going to put half a banana, a scoop of yogurt, Greek yogurt, a couple of strawberries, a scoop of protein powder, blend it all up, and then, put it into your little 4 or 6 ounce cups, put them in the freezer, and then they're ready to go whenever you are. Um, the baby food or applesauce, so you can obviously buy sugar-free, no sugar added applesauce, or you can buy baby food at the grocery store. But sometimes, especially nowadays, baby food has sugar added. So be really, really careful when you're buying you're buying baby food versus making it yourself. So do some people actually just make food just like baby food, right? Like they would take cooked carrots or cooked green beans or cooked chicken or something, add some broth, put it in a blender and blend it down to that puree, right, Stephanie?
It's really easy, and this is actually really nice too, like especially before surgery, as you're getting closer, you can actually do this step. Like if you're, thinking about it, preparing for afterwards, you can actually do what Christy just mentioned. When the next time you're cooking, put a little aside, blend it with a little broth and some seasoning and freeze it. And then you have these for later on down the road when you're in post-op. But yeah, it's so easy. You literally just blend them. If you have a food, immersion blender, you can do it like right in the pot.
Hmm.
It doesn't take a lot. So I actually do have patients. I encourage them to do this. I have patients that do it on their own. And then again, if people, there is the option to buy baby food, like Christy mentioned just a second ago, but I encourage my patients to buy the vegetables, and to limit the fruit servings of baby food. But that is still an option too.
Perfect. And then these others, as we're moving sort of down the pictures, are more of the soft and mushy stage when you are allowed to have a little bit more texture.
Hmm.
You can do your overnight oats with protein powder and, milk, or a milk alternative, and let that really soak, maybe for more than just an overnight in this case, but a few days, to let those oats really, really soften. And you can do your little egg muffin cups and freeze them, or you can do your scrambled egg cups and freeze them and have those ready to go too. So these are all good ideas for if I need to have protein, I'm probably not going to cook, and I want to have some stuff ready for me when I come home from surgery. These are all great options.
Even I would say even long after the mushy stage, like those last two are really easy. They're really great
Oh,
options to have. Way post-op. They're fast, they're easy, they taste good. Um,
yes, yes.
so
I
so
know.
anyways,
I always wish when I make myself scrambled eggs that I would make like 12, weeks of scrambled eggs and have them available, because I really enjoy eating scrambled eggs, but I don't ever have them ready for me, as often as I would like.
they do freeze pretty well.
They do, they do. Um, all right, so then when we finally start making that transition to solids, this is where the real meal prep comes in. So we're looking for, what is this new bariatric lifestyle and how am I going to make it work for me? The one thing I want to point out about this picture is this is actually a beautiful meal that, one of the UNJURY Cares members posted at one point, or we used for her recipe. This is like a watermelon beet salad with
Ooh,
I don't know what the greens are there. And then it's a salmon roulade with like a pesto something. This is really fancy, and we're not going to require anybody to do this, but this was something that this person, I think, prepped ahead of time. They did the salad fresh, but then they made the salmon roulade, like a bunch of the salmon wheels, ahead of time, and had them ready. So for the meat, those were always in the freezer ready to go.
that looks really
So
good
that's
too.
very cool. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Looks like spinach too.
Yes. Yeah. So Stephanie, this is your formula, and I actually wanted to start with the formula before we get into the different kinds of meal preps, because I think this is really important. Like, this is just the basics of what am I going to eat going forward?
Yeah. So sometimes I try to break it down with patients when we're talking in little bite-sized pieces they can remember.
Mhm.
And one thing I try to do is always give people like a formula, because sometimes if you have something that you can think of quickly, you'll be able to remember it. Your formula will always stay the same, but you get to choose what it is each time. And it's very flexible. This can go with you whether you're eating at a restaurant or you're pulling different ingredients out of the cupboard in the fridge. So your formula is a protein, a vegetable, and a smart carb. Okay, protein, vegetable, and smart carb. It's pretty simple. You just one of each. Your protein, again, you get to choose the protein. Your protein is going to be, for the sake of this conversation, just make it a little easier. It's going to be the biggest portion of your plate, followed by your vegetable, and then followed by the smallest portion of your plate is going to be your smart carb. Your smart carb is either a grain or a starchy vegetable or a fruit. You get to choose what protein it is. It just has to be there. You get to choose what vegetable it is. It just has to be there. You get to choose what healthy carb it is. It just has to be there. So again, it's pretty flexible. So just try to think of your formula when you're looking at your plate. If you only have protein and a smart carb, something's missing. So 3 things should be there.
Perfect. I like to break down the healthy carb bit because I think this is so important. So, for example, on this plate, we've got a piece of chicken, we've got some green beans or some other greens under there, and then something that looks like maybe sweet potato or squash or something like that. I think in many cases, if you don't break it down like this, some people would count the sweet potato or the squash thing as their vegetable
Yeah.
and then add in something like brown rice or quinoa or some other grain and kind of feel like the plate was what it should be. But you're really, if you did that, you were sort of doubling down on the smart carb and not having the vegetable, or which is sort of upping the carb count, not dramatically, but it would be upping the carb count more than what you would want all in one meal. So so that like breaking down the way you've done what that healthy carb or smart carb is really nice to know that the vegetable is actually more of like a green leafy thing probably, and then the smart carb is going to be like your potato, or if you did, and you don't have to do that. You could do the fruit instead, or you could do the grain instead, but you'd only get to pick one.
Yeah, and Christy, in most program, like the I call it the Bible,
Mm-hmm.
that they provide patients, they usually have that list broken down of what the healthy carb is.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that we do that, and so for the sake of space here, we couldn't really do that, but usually that is broken down in your patient material. So this is another reason why I recommend patients go through that material, especially before surgery. And then every once in a while after surgery, review it, because you might forget some details, or put it on your fridge, so that you can kind of have a list going, and you can see what your carb is, and what your vegetable options are.
Yeah, and this is a pretty full looking plate for what a bariatric stomach would be able to hold, especially in that first year after surgery, right, Stephanie? It's probably more
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
a
First
quarter
year.
to a
Yeah.
half of this of this piece of chicken eventually, and so this is just a nice looking plate that I chose, but obviously much 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 smaller.
Yeah. And then can we, Rachel, I'm going to ask you one more time. Do you mind putting that cookbook link in the chat one more time? There's a couple people asking about it.
Yep, I'm trying to keep up
Oh,
with the question and
sorry.
answers in the chat, so sorry if I
Sorry
looked
about
like
that. I know
zoned
you're
out.
looking. No, no, no. And I feel bad because I've seen it a couple times.
No worries. Hold on one second. I have
Sorry,
another
guys. We'll
link
get it
already
out for you in
copied.
just
Yeah,
a
just a
second.
second.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, everybody. I can't even see the chat, so thanks for keeping up with it.
I'm trying.
Good. Okay, so this is sort of the bigger part of the meeting here is we first prepped for the first 30 days, but we have to learn how to prep for the rest of your life too. And so Stephanie has broken down meal prep into 3 different styles, which I love, because it means that there's actually a style for everybody. probably not the person who's going to be a batch cooker, Stephanie,
That's
but
okay. Yeah, that's okay.
I can do the other two a little bit. So I'm going to let you introduce from here, and then we're not going to break it down as deep as we did before, but we're going to go through each one just a little bit.
Sure, sure. Okay, so and this, like you said, you guys can do this even before surgery to help you for after surgery, or just even before surgery for your pre-op um, journey. So batch cooking is where you make a large batch of a meal and then you split it into smaller portions. You don't have to eat that whole batch right away. You can use what you're gonna, eat what you need and then freeze the rest. And you can typically freeze that for 3 to 6 months after surgery. I mean, excuse me, after it's been cooked. Ingredient prep is where you take an ingredient and you clean it, you chop it, you prep it, and you put it in individual containers in the fridge. And then during the week, you scoop out what you need, and it's kind of a grab and go method. This one is again, you just have your ingredients ready for you when you're ready to cook. And then the last one is prepping prepped foods. So that is exactly how it sounds. It's kind of just being resourceful with foods that are already prepared. And I'll give you an example. At the grocery store, you ever see that rotisserie chicken? It's usually right in the front when you walk into the deli section. It's pre-cooked. It's usually a pretty big size bird. That is a pre-prepped item. So you can use that in your meal preps and that saves time. So three different options, and that maybe you use one of these more than the other, or maybe use a combination of all of them.
Yeah, I think of the batch cooking, Stephanie, as chili, right? Like you make chili and then you divide it into 10 different little cups
Yes.
and you put
Yeah.
those in the fridge. Like that's batch cooking
Yeah.
for me. And but I always think of that as something you said a really smart thing. I always think of like, oh God, I'm going to make chili and then I'm going to have to eat it for the next 10 days. But you don't have to eat it for 10 days in a
No.
row. You can eat it
No.
for, once or twice a week for the next 5 weeks.
Exactly, exactly. It just
Yeah.
depends on how you want to use things.
Hmm.
And that's why sometimes people do end up falling into a bit of all three styles.
Hmm.
I'm kind of like that. In the winter, I'm more of a batch cooker, and then in the
Hmm.
summer, it's kind of a little bit of all three.
More the ingredient cooker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? Rachel, are you a meal prepper at all?
I am a meal prepper.
Oh, okay. What
Yeah.
what style are
Yes,
you, Rachel?
I do batch cooking.
Oh,
Oh.
So
lovely.
I don't have a lot of time between work and then going to the gym. So I usually try and pick a day on the weekend to make a big batch, or maybe Monday night where it's a little more low key, and I'll make um, my protein, my veggies, and my starch. It's my go-to all the time.
Yeah,
That's
it's
really
really
good.
convenient. It does make
Mm,
it easier, especially with taking that idea that it takes one less thing off of your plate during the week.
Yes.
What am I going to eat? You know what it is. You eat it, you get it out of the way, and you go back to business. And that's what I really like about batch cooking, especially
yeah.
when the season's kind of busy.
Yeah. My style, I think, is more I make enough dinner at night that I get like two more meals. That's about as far as I can go, is like
That's
two
kind
more
of
meals
batch
out of
cooking.
it. It's kind of batch cooking, but
Yeah,
those two meals end up being like lunches at work. This is probably
that's
so
great. I'm
kind of
going to give you a round of
leftovers.
applause
Thank
because
you.
you
Thank you.
said you were not a batch cooker. And I'm like, wait a minute, you kind of are. So I'll give you some credit for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Good. All right. So let's break it down. Who is it good for? Who are each of these good for?
So batch cooking is great for those who don't mind repeating a meal. But again, you can also freeze and then have it spread out in later periods of the month or weeks. So again, it's great for people who don't mind repeating a meal. It's great for people who are really busy, especially like what Rachel just said, and don't have time to during the week to make a new meal or even a meal in general. So that's what who batch cooking is really great for. Ingredient prep is great for people who do not like repeating meals. Again, what you do with ingredient prep is all the ingredients are washed, chopped, diced, whatever it is. They're put away in cute little containers and they're stored in the fridge. And then you come home from work, or maybe you step aside from your work and you have time for lunch. You quickly throw things together and you make a fresh meal. That's great when that's what ingredient prep is great for. So again, you don't want to repeat a meal, and it's great for people who like to be in the kitchen, who like cooking, and who just like to get creative and just have a little bit more freedom with their food. So ingredient prep is great for those types of individuals. And then last, prepping is great for just anybody who's super busy, and those who do not enjoy cooking, who don't have a lot of time to even like or they're just not really comfortable in the kitchen and they're just getting started. So prepped meal preparation is great for those individuals.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to go through just a couple examples so that people can think about what are some of the ways that they can do batch cooking.
Yeah, so with batch cooking, so I gave three different options here: a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner. But you could literally just do one if you're just getting started. So let's just say you were just batch cooking breakfast, because that's where you want to start. And let's say we wanted to do something really, really simple: protein, a high protein yogurt. You would buy a container of yogurt, a larger container of yogurt, bring it home. You would individually, portion it out into individual containers. So we'll say 5 containers, Monday through Friday. And then you add a scoop of your, UNJURY protein powder into each one, mix it up, and then some berries into each container. You close it up, put it in the fridge, and then voila, every morning for breakfast, you've got your breakfast ready to go. All you do is grab it, you enjoy it, or you take it with you on your way to work. And so that is how you could batch prep breakfast. Um, I also gave an example for lunch. You could batch prep lunch, and I just gave an example of chicken and wild rice soup. And then there's a batch prep option for beef stir fry with veggies and quinoa. Again, you don't have to do all of your meals unless you are ready and you want to. But I just gave you an example of like a meal that you can batch cook for each breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then what that would look like. Like I said, it'd be for a couple meals.
Yeah, I think it's always good to like, trying to do all 3 meals. If you've never done meal prep before, it could be overwhelming. It would feel like a
Mhm.
lot on a Sunday or,
Yeah.
whenever you're doing it. So pick one meal that is the hardest meal, the one where you're most likely to go, oh God, I'm exhausted. I'm just going to have that. Or if it's, the whatever you have for lunch at work, if you know that all of your colleagues are going to be going, hey, let's order out, let's go grab lunch. Well, nope, I've already brought my lunch. It's already
Yeah.
made. So that's a really good one. And I also find when I bring my lunch, there are times at dinner time, if there's something in my freezer, but I'm standing in my kitchen, I can still go, I don't know if I want that tonight. But if I actually meal prep my lunches, that is the only thing that's in the office with me, and it's my only option. So I'm going to eat that healthy meal.
I can't tell you how many times this has saved me too, Chrissy. That what you just said, it's totally true for me too. Like there have been so many times where I'm like, the group is getting this, but I don't want to waste. I don't want to waste my food, so I'm just gonna eat it.
Yep. Yep. I don't want to spend the money and I don't want to waste the food that I just brought with
Hmm.
me. Yeah. Good. All right. So that's an example of how you could do your batch cooking for the week or for a few days. I have another little video here for you because I think that breakfast for me is tough, not because um, there aren't options, but to get protein at breakfast when there are so many carby options out there as grab and
Hmm.
go can be challenging because you don't necessarily want to eat eggs every single day. Or, if you haven't made your little egg muffins or you don't want to do a protein shake, this is just one more option. And the reason I'm showing you how to make protein waffles is because these waffles can actually go in the freezer. You can meal prep these. You can do a bunch of protein waffles, stick them in the freezer, and then just in the morning, stick them in the egg, like in the toaster oven, just like an Eggo waffle. And you've got a waffle with 15 or 20 grams of protein in it to take with you. So here is a way to make a protein waffle prepping. So super, super quick and easy. That one little scoop plus the egg and the water makes about 3 or 4 little mini waffles. And Rachel, what would you say to if we would have made 12 waffles, 15 minutes tops to put in the
Yeah,
freezer? Yeah.
super easy. Yeah.
So those are great as just a protein breakfast that you can prep ahead of time, have in the freezer ready to go.
Christy, do you mind if I clarify something on the slide right before? Because I have a question,
Oh, yes.
if you don't
Let me go
mind.
back up. Hold on.
Thank
Let me
you.
go. Oops. Back up. There, that's fine.
Okay,
Mhm.
the chicken wild rice soup is with the UNJURY protein powder. So sorry if that was a little confusing for anybody. But the UNJURY protein powder, the chicken soup and wild rice. So sorry if that was a little confusing.
Oh, that's yeah, no, the chicken, I mean, depending on, whether or not you're trying to really hit high protein goals, you could make the Undri chicken soup, but you could also make, you could have, if you're far enough out from surgery, you could actually have chunks of chicken where you're getting the protein from chicken and just using a broth. But the Undri chicken soup protein powder does bump the chicken or uh,
Protein.
bump the protein pretty dramatically and really easy for a small tummy. So,
And then we do have Jen on sometime. I think we had her on 2 sessions ago,
mhm.
and she has gotten some pretty creative with the Undri chicken soup protein powder and just adding little
Oh,
chunks of vegetables into it. So it is really
perfect.
easy to get that high protein intake in, and the broth again, that flavor is actually really nice. It's a really soothing broth flavor.
Mhm.
So sorry, Chrissy, I just wanted to clarify that really quickly.
No, that's helpful. And people do often ask, can I make the soup ahead of time, freeze it, and then heat it up in the microwave? Because remember, we have that issue with the
Hmm.
overheating. If you do it that way, if you make it ahead of time and then you want to heat it up again, you just have to go sort of slow and easy with heating it up. So you might put it in for like 15 seconds and then stir it, and then, another 10 seconds and stir until you get to the right temperature. The reason I say go slow is because if you put it in for 45 seconds or a minute, right around the edges of your mug or your cup or your bowl is going to get a lot hotter than 140 degrees, even if the center isn't. So you'll get clumping around the edges if you go too fast because the cup gets hot sometimes. So just a word to the wise, if you're going to make it ahead of time, go slow when you heat it. Okay,
Thank
oops,
you.
sorry, there we go. All right, style number 2.
Okay, ingredient prep. So with ingredient prep, I mean, it's really easy. You can start with even one ingredient. Let me just give you a quick little example. Let's say you took 5 eggs and you boiled them and you peeled them and you put them in little containers and you grabbed one, and that's what you had intended for your snack. Congratulations, you are ingredient prep. You literally took one item and you prepped it ahead of time and you put it in the fridge for use later. So that also counts as ingredient prep. Let's take, for example, celery. Let's say you bought a whole stalk of celery, you washed it, you chopped it up, you put it in the container. That's ingredient prep. So there's a lot of things you can do with it. And this is where the creativity comes in. This is like really nice, especially if you are someone who likes to just get a little crazy or creative in the kitchen. You can just have a couple of your ingredients. So in this case, I took a rotisserie chicken. Again, you can get that from the grocery store. When you come home, you just shred it up, you put it in containers. Maybe you buy a bag of pre-washed leafy greens, and during the week, you can grab those two things together and throw it together and make a chicken salad. You can do a bag of, or you can make a batch of quinoa ahead of time, or you can do the microwavable quinoa. You can grab your ingredients from the fridge, and maybe today you want like a more of a little savory bowl instead of a salad. So the cool thing about ingredient prep is, like I said, you've at least just touched the ingredients ahead of time. You put them in the fridge in containers, and during the week you can just kind of make new combinations with it, with them, instead of having like one specific meal, like such as with a batch cooking.
Yeah, yeah. So basically 4 or 5 grocery items then turns into, they're not really, really different meals, but they're different meals, right? Like you do chicken salad one night and then chicken tacos another night, and then, bake it with a little sprinkle of cheese over it one night. And you've got the chicken, with a little enchilada sauce, you've got chicken
Yeah.
enchiladas. And so it is, it is ultimately a different meal every night, but you
The
only
same
did
ingredients.
1 day of prep and you made, you did a really simple grocery trip.
Yeah, that's the
I
nice
love
thing
it.
about it.
Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna say this next one is possibly my favorite, Stephanie.
This one is a good one. And
This is
so, yeah, I'm so glad because, if you don't know where to start and you're still overwhelmed or you're just like, I just don't have the time, the thing that we never want to do is make anybody feel ashamed or like feel bad. That's not our goal. So start with where you are at and start with what you have. And honestly, like nowadays, if there was ever a time to be on a diet, like nowadays is it's probably now because there's so many great products available to make your life easier. So what I say is use the convenience foods, but just remember to follow your protein. I mean, your formula. Remember to follow your formula. Grab a protein. There's many options that are pre-made that you can just put together. Grab a vegetable. You can do canned, frozen. You could do pre-washed. You can do. There's so many cool options in the freezer section now. So but whatever it is that you want, just grab something, and then your smart carb or your grain. So a couple images here. These are things that are already pre-cooked or already put together and prepped and put it with like some sauces and seasonings. Grilled chicken strips, you can get this in the freezer aisle at almost every grocery store. You've got this bird's eye stir fry veggie mix. Bird's eye actually makes a lot of different vegetable combinations. You'll find this in the freezer section. Quick, super easy. You literally take it out of the bag, throw it on your pot, or you throw it in the microwave, whichever you prefer, and you have vegetables that are flavored in a matter of minutes. And then again, a little quick and easy bag of microwavable. This is a mix of quinoa and brown rice. So again, you don't have to be a chef. You don't have to be advanced. You can literally start with things that are already pre-made, and that they can still fit your healthy lifestyle. So
Yeah, and then I love, Stephanie, the ors at the end
yeah.
are these bowls that they literally followed your formula.
Mm-hmm.
And you do have to look because they're not all going to be perfect. But there will be some of these pre-made meals out there that follow that formula of protein, vegetable, and some sort of a healthy grain or carb that are already just totally 100% done for you.
Yeah. And then I'm not sure if what's on the next slide, but
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yes, okay. Well, actually, let's go back really quick. Let me
Okay.
finish one more
Okay.
point about these microwavable meals. So I also want to say something. There's a lot of food mongering nowadays on social media, and a lot of them will say, no, don't eat this, don't eat that. And a lot of it is unfortunately taken out of context. Okay.
Mhm.
So I don't want anybody to leave here thinking that frozen foods are an immediate, like, no food. Especially for someone after bariatric surgery, they're small, they're portion controlled, they have a protein, a vegetable, a healthy grain, a smart carb. They can actually be a really easy, good fit for you, especially after surgery. So, and on top of that, they are cost effective. So, I just want to point that out because I know that on social media, which is where a lot of people get their information, there's some health influencers that are just very critical on food. And I just want to say, like, hey, don't feel guilty. These are actually not a bad alternative, especially if it fits your formula. So,
Yeah.
thank you, Christy. I just wanted to really say that because I know that it can kind of get negative on social media with
Yeah,
food.
no, thank you, Stephanie, because I think being able to hear that from a dietitian who says, look, everybody has to do the thing that is going to work for
Yeah.
them. If you're not going to cook a chicken breast and some fresh vegetable and every night and stick to that, if that's going to make this whole journey really, really challenging for you, then that's not the plan.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not the way to go, right? We all have to find that thing or that way or that method that, yes, fits the formula, but works for us in our lives with what we're dealing with. And, Stephanie, and I love this next picture because everybody out there is also dealing with, who knows who's living in their house that they also have to feed, whether they have
Yeah.
children that they have to feed, or, everybody in their house might want something a little different. But this next picture gives us a lot of options.
Okay, guys. So, again, being creative, you don't have to recreate the wheel. there again, like I said a few minutes ago, if ever there was a time to be on a diet, like 2023 is the time, because there's so many companies out there that are doing a lot of the work to make your life easier. And that can be a really good thing. So I'm going to pick on Costco for just a second. They make large sized, foods in their deli section where they're meant for parties or for sharing with multiple people. You can actually take one of these, divide it up in little containers, and use it for yourself. No one said that you had to share that with everybody, or maybe you are sharing with family members. It's a great way to kind of get everybody's bases covered. And then, fun fact, I will say that Caesar salad at Costco is actually really good. It's one of my favorites. It's really good, Christy. So again, it's large, and that's like several meals for me because it's a
Hmm.
lot. Um, I also chose Chipotle. If you see it right here, this is a kind of a fun one. This is actually trending on social media. I didn't come up with this one. I wish I did. But there's a gentleman who decided that he was going to order catering for 10 people,
Hmm.
and he would just divvied it up, and he made his own meal preps for that were lasting him a week. Um, yes, I know. I wish I could
I
take credit for this
love
one. Yeah.
that. Oh
And
my
they
gosh.
fit
And he
the
probably,
formula.
well, and that, I mean, I'm curious
He
what
saved
he
money.
paid, like, yeah, per meal, what that
Did.
ended
Well,
up being.
it comes out to, so for 10 people, it comes out to $12. Well, this one's I will say this one particular that I'm talking about was the veggie sofritas. So it's a little bit cheaper than the
Okay.
actual like steak or chicken, but it's
Yeah.
$12 a serving. So 10 times 12, $120
Okay.
for,
And I wonder how many meals he ended up getting out of it.
yeah, for at least a week's worth. And then whatever you don't eat, because,
Hmm.
maybe there's just too much, you can freeze.
Yeah.
And again, look, if it's your formula, you've got a protein and it's grilled. We've got grilled
Hmm.
steak or chicken, or you can use those sofritas at Chipotle
Hmm.
vegetables. So you actually get two vegetables with that type of catering situation. You get shredded lettuce, and you also get the mixed greens,
Okay.
or excuse me, not the mixed greens, the sautéed peppers. So you got two
Hmm.
vegetables there. Your healthy carb would be your beans and your corn. And then actually you get another vegetable fruit serving technically, because tomato has a little bit of seeds, but we'll just call it
Hmm.
a non-starchy for right now. You get some tomato in there too, and so you get a little balance of everything.
I love it.
It's
That
your
this
formula.
I know
Yeah.
this might be a go-to because my son loves Chipotle, so I could totally take care of him and then have,
Yeah.
kind of leftover little meal prep for me.
And then freeze the
So,
rest. And
and
then freeze
freeze
the
the rest.
rest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I actually have purchased this taco thing that Costco does over here on the right-hand side. That alone, I'm thinking is
Hmm.
5 meals, 4
Yeah,
or 5 meals, don't you think?
especially after bariatric surgery, like you can't eat that much. So that
No.
protein will absolutely last you. So you've got the protein, which is the chicken.
Yeah.
You've got your veggie, which is the shredded, I think it's a cabbage mix.
Cabbage, yeah.
You've got a little bit of dairy slash protein in the cheese, and then you have your carb, your
Little
corn tortilla.
tortilla.
Hmm.
Hmm. Love
Yeah.
it.
Like,
This is my very favorite one, I
yeah.
think, of all of all just because it's so practical. It's so practical and you don't have to feel bad about it and you actually can eat at places that you're used to eating, right?
Well, not only that though,
Sometimes.
Christy, yeah, absolutely. Not only that though, there's going to be times where we have time in our life where we can batch
Hmm.
cook, and we can batch cook all meals.
Hmm.
There's going to be times where it's just where we didn't get to quite make those meals, and all we could do in the kitchen was ingredient prep. And
Hmm.
then there's going to be times where like I have so many things on my to-do list. This kid needs that. This person's calling me here. Partner needs this. I'm just like split. I'm just like so torn for time. Uh,
Hmm.
and you have something like Costco or one of these outlets as a backup plan, or you are able to quickly put some frozen items in the freezer and use them later on. So there might be for each one of us a time when we use each of these different meal preps. And so I just
Hmm.
want to kind of say that, because again, I do get a lot of messages that patients get from social media, and then they tell me, well, I feel bad I couldn't do this, or then they beat themselves up for not being able to meet these like unrealistic social media expectations.
Hmm.
So I just want to give you guys some options. I think options are healthy.
Yeah, and I think this page that you've showed here, for anybody who is, 2, 4, 6 months still away from scheduling their surgery, and you just want to start doing something a little bit healthier, start working towards those protein goals, start working towards, the smaller portion sizes. I think this is exactly the place to start if you've never meal prepped before.
Yeah, yeah.
Just try buying something like this, some pre-prepared food that it looks healthy, but then dividing it up into small containers and having it available to you for lunches and dinners, um, for the next week or so, and just see how it goes. See what it does to change, just 1 or 2 meals for you through the course of the next week or two. The other thing I was going to say, Stephanie, and I forgot to put it in here, but you made a really good point the last time we did this meeting a little bit differently. But you also said a good place for people to start with meal prep is just with their snacks. So
Yes.
if the whole idea of prepping meals kind of overwhelms you and you think, oh, I'm never going to do that, just start with prepping healthy snacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah, you could just start small. You don't have to jump, dive right in. You can do, like I kind of said earlier, you boiled eggs, you peel them and you put them in the fridge and you eat them throughout the week. You are already meal prepping. Congratulations, you've already started. It can literally be that small. Maybe it is taking your shake container, throwing a scoop of protein powder in there, just closing it up, and then in the morning you just pour your milk in and you shake it up and you go. That is getting yourself prepped and in the direction you're getting started.
Mhm,
So it's really, I definitely say start with one meal or one snack or one item. Start
mhm,
small, just to get yourself familiar with it, and then you build up when you're ready.
perfect. All right, I think we might be on. Oh gosh, no, there's just a couple more things that you can think. These are just other things that you could prep or things that you can make ahead of time with protein to have in the freezer. We talked about the one option for ice cream using that ice cream maker, but we actually do have Bonjoy, which is also the thing that we made the waffle mix with. You can just add water or milk to that and turn it into pudding or gelato or something to freeze. There are recipes on the website for how to make a fudgesicle, which is pretty delicious with the chocolate protein powder. Protein balls, which you can keep in the freezer, which is just, it's like a quarter cup or a third of a cup of peanut butter or low-fat peanut butter, and then several scoops of protein powder. You mix it up and then just roll them. And there are these amazing little protein snacks, like chocolate peanut butter protein snacks that you leave in the freezer. The protein yogurt we touched on, doing just a protein veggie dip that can be sitting there
Hmm.
ready with little low-fat sour cream or even just Greek yogurt, and then one of the savory protein powders like the chicken soup or the French onion, actually, I would go with French onion, makes a great veggie dip. And then egg salad, where you then add some unflavored protein powder to your mixture. That can be ready to go for a couple of lunches too, and it'd be, really high protein lunch. This is actually, egg salad is one of my go-to lunches at home. I don't know why I never bring it to work with me, but anyway, so those are some easy things to prep ahead of time. And then, Stephanie, just things to remember.
Yeah, so some things to remember is meal prep leads to success. It also helps to minimize impulse eating, and it also helps you to stick with your diet and help you make better food choices, instead of like impulse snacking or eating on the wrong kind of foods. It does save you money. That's one of the nicest things about meal prepping. It also helps to minimize food waste, and it also helps with just decision fatigue. It's one less thing you have to think about in your busy day of already so many things to do. There's a style for everybody, and try to remember your formula. Okay, so just remember the formula. A protein, you get to choose the protein. A vegetable, you get to choose the vegetable. And a healthy carb, you get to choose a healthy carb. But as long as all three of those are there, you're covering your bases. So again, just a couple things to remember, and you don't have to start with a huge meal. You can start with just even one item, and that still counts. So
Good.
good luck with that, you guys.
Awesome. That's a really great, and we like literally landed Stephanie
Yes,
at 8 o'clock on the dot.
we did it.
But I do want to give Rachel, were there any like burning questions that were in the chat or anything
Yeah.
that was in the
I mean,
Q&A?
a big one was, what was your water kettle?
Oh, what was the water kettle? Oh my
What
gosh.
brand you have?
So I don't know the brand, but it was from Amazon. That's all I know. And so just look for the ones that have, you know, the temperature control. And a lot of them do these days have the temperature control. Um, so we also have to do a raffle. I didn't say at the beginning, we
Yeah,
always do a
don't go
raffle
yet,
prize at
guys.
the end of the night. So don't hang up yet, everybody, if you want to win the raffle. Hold on, I've got to get the names up here really quick. All right.
Oh, and
Gosh.
Christy, real quick before
Yes,
you,
yes.
can you just search UNJURY on YouTube, and then will a lot of these videos pop up?
Yeah, UNJURY or UNJURY Cares. I can't remember. Those videos would be there. There's also some videos on our Facebook page, so you can look for UNJURY Protein on Facebook. There are some videos on the Instagram page. So, and actually, we have new stuff on TikTok, which we've never been on TikTok before, but
Oh, you're on TikTok
all of a
now.
sudden, UNJURY's on TikTok. Yes.
Wow.
So, so, you know, find us there, and there's recipes all over the place. But the UNJURY website is also just probably the best collection of recipes. Yes. Okay, winner of tonight's prize, you just have to let us know that you're still out there, is Troy Valentine. Troy Valentine, you're the winner of the
Okay.
UNJURY Protein Prize Pack. So
Troy, he's
is
here.
he still
Oh,
here?
there you go.
Yes. All right.
Yay.
Congrats, Troy. You're fast.
Congratulations.
So we will send you a prize, but you have to let us know where to send it. So email us at supportgroup@unjury.com and just tell us the place to mail to you, your mailing address. For anybody else, yeah, thank you, Rachel. Supportgroup@unjury.com. All questions to supportgroup@unjury.com. Remember, your attendance receipts will be mailed to you automatically, but it's going to take about 5 days. So you'll get an email from UNJURY. It'll say thank you and attendance. Inside there, you'll see your attendance receipt. You can forward that onto your bariatric coordinator and get credit for the meeting. If you have any problems, just reach out to us. Check your spam. It goes to spam. You're about to say it, Rachel. I
I
jumped in front.
was.
It goes to spam at least 50% of the time. So just search UNJURY for, or search your spam for UNJURY. All right, we did it. Anything else?
There were just some questions that I couldn't get to, so if there were any pressing one, guys, just remember to email supportgroup@unjury.com.
Perfect. All right.
Yeah, it
Thank you,
was a little hard.
everybody. This was a really great meeting. I hope everybody learned a lot or just got some good ideas. That was the name of the meeting, is just good ideas. So I think we got some good ideas out there. And we will see you all. Anybody who wants to join next week, join us next week. All right. Oh, we do hugs. Hugs,
Oh,
everybody.
yes.
Yeah, this is how we end. Hugs to the group. Join us on Facebook, either at UNJURY or UNJURY Cares. That's a private Facebook group where everybody here tonight can kind of join up again together. So we'll see you there.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for having me,
Bye.
Bye.
guys.
Yep. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Rachel. Have a good night.
Bye.